I wanted to make an update video as well as a love letter to both Black Sabbath and Ozzy. If you're unfamiliar, there is a show that's going to be happening in 2025, orchestrated or at least directed by Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine, entitled Back to the Beginning, which is going to be the very last show for both Ozzy Osbourne as well as Black Sabbath. Complete with dozens of incredible performers. I can't even put them all on the screen, I can't even list them all off the top of my head, but there are so many. Everyone from Guns N' Roses to Pantera to Lamb of God to Gojira to literally just everything in between. It is an absolute celebration and by far is going to be one of the biggest and most important metal shows of all time. I've been doing my own research and keeping up with a lot of the developments when it comes to Ozzy, and I wanted to provide a little bit of insight as to why it might be getting very close to the end for him. One thing that's kind of disappointed a lot of people and made a lot of fans kind of sad is Ozzy has said he's only going to be doing bits and pieces with Black Sabbath. And considering this is like a hallmark lineup for Black Sabbath and it's the final show, people were like, oh my god, Ozzy is returning to the stage. Because if you haven't followed the developments with Ozzy throughout the years, he has been clamoring to return back to the stage. It has been like his dream and his goal for years on end now. He has been fighting Parkinson's for a very long time, and both him and Sharon have been incredibly open and transparent about the struggles that has imposed on them as well as their family, whether it be the medical procedures that he has had, the difficulties in just managing his own life and his symptoms, the chronic pain, his lack of mobility, and his lack of ability to get in the studio and do music in the way that he would like, which is why it was such a big deal for him to feature on that Post Malone track or to make the album Ordinary Man, or alternatively for this to be announced. I can't remember if it was last year or the year before last, there was an interview that him and Sharon did where he talked about how he was considering going through an experimental procedure to try to give him the mobility and the ability to go on stage and perform. And say what you want about Ozzy and Sharon's relationship, because I know Ozzy has been kind of a crack whore, I know that he has done a lot of shitty things to Sharon, and I know that their relationship has always been very televised and put in front of us, but it is still obviously going to be skewed compared to the love that they have shared throughout decades of time, both on screen as well as off screen. Sharon said something that was very impactful to me when I was listening to it. She pretty much said he was made for this and he was made to be on the road, and that she wanted to see that spark and joy in people's eyes when he performed and the spark and joy in his eyes. He could easily rest on his laurels. He hasn't had to do this for any period of time. He could be approaching things by saying, hey, I'm going to get better for myself, for Sharon, I'm just going to chill and live my life as comfortably as I can until I die and just try to go as comfortably as possible and enjoy the fruits of my labor over the many, many decades that I have been killing myself pretty much and busting my ass, ingesting every drug under the planet, being an alcoholic, growing sober over the years, and trying my best to improve as a person. I could just take this, take the money, provide for my family, provide for myself, and try to get better. But the number one goal that he had was to get back on stage, and he has for many years, ever since he has been getting worse and worse and his health has been deteriorating, the main goal that he has put in interviews, and whether it be written or in person, as rare as they might be, has been he has wanted to perform again. So with all of that context being given, I hope that people can understand, number one, why it is so important and incredible that he is on the stage whatsoever. This man has absolutely no business doing this, so whether it's bits and pieces or whether it's full, the fact that he is even able to do it on his own, because he is pretty old as is. He is quite literally very old. He is pushing 80 years old, and pushing 80s, most performers give up a long time before that and retire, let alone ones with such a deteriorating, debilitating disease that eats your body alive neurologically. Stacked on top of that, all of the god knows what things that he has put into his body throughout his life. He has not had an easy life in terms of addiction and substance abuse. So personally, I was not looking at this as they're gonna perform every Black Sabbath song ever and it just has to be a Black Sabbath concert. Back to the Beginning, to me, represents a celebration of the influence that Black Sabbath has had. You see all of these names that are a part of this list and you realize how influential and impactful Black Sabbath were were to setting the framework for all of these bands that were influenced by Black Sabbath, because they were one of the first, arguably the first, heavy metal bands of all time. And so getting all of these S-tier bands to come together to celebrate the legacy of both Ozzy and Black Sabbath, that to me is more monumental and more important and more integral to the foundation of metal than getting 5 more songs, 10 more songs performed by Ozzy on that stage. It is the message and narrative that it sets, it's the determination that he has put forward, it is the guts and glory that he is going out with on his own terms in the end of his life, because he has been no stranger to saying that he probably is going fairly soon. I remember seeing an interview like last year, I believe it was the same one where he talked about wanting to perform and doing the surgery and stuff, where he said that his body was mangled. That is the exact word that he used. And he has had a lot of emergency situations, he's had a lot of surgeries, he's had a lot of medications, he's tried a bunch of different trials and medical stuff, and sadly a lot of times it just doesn't work because Parkinson's is one hell of a damn disease that just tears you apart. And so the fact that he put all of that aside and set his goal on performing one last time is incredible to me. And that personally is why I just don't understand people that are going out of their way to diss Black Sabbath or diss Ozzy and say that this shouldn't happen and why aren't you performing everything? Shut the fuck up and check your privilege on why we are getting this performance to begin with and what it represents, because you are so short-sighted if you just want to hear Ozzy perform a bunch of Black Sabbath songs and call it a day. This was never really intended to be that, and I'm just glad they're not setting the expectations for that, setting the stage both metaphorically and literally. Because if you want to hear Ozzy perform music, there are thousands, tens of thousands of videos that you can find of him performing your favorite song, I promise. I'm just very excited to see this. I think Tom Morello is going to do an amazing job. He obviously is going to really love what he is doing, and I have a strong hunch that all of these bands are going to be bringing their absolute all to this performance, and I can't wait to see how it pans out. But what are your guys' opinions of this topic? You can let me know down in the comment section below. Agree or disagree, there is no wrong answer. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Dream Morris, and I'm signing off saying farewell.